You had your chance and then you blew it.
That is the most absurd statement of the year.
Nice. Nice.
Oh, baby.
I'm in my zone, I'm feeling it.
Live from West St. Paul Studios, it's time for MinneZona Sports Live with DJ Matty C and Paul the Shield Vold.
And this is MinneZona Sports Live. We are back. Yes, episode 213. Yes. We had our Granite City Lumberjacks special, our second annual on Saturday, but hey,
Yes,
we're
sir.
back here again, regular Wednesday night. So without further ado, I'm your host, DJ Matty C, a.k.a. Matt Allen, a.k.a. Callie, a.k.a. Matty C, etc., 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 and all the way from Granite City Studios in St. Cloud, Minnesota, Volt, the Shield. What's going on there, Shield?
You know, I'm just happy and glad for a couple of things. First off, of course, after a great show that we had on Saturday, not so happy with the fact the weather that we're looking at for tomorrow, with it being Halloween. I mean, we're talking a little bit of a rain and snow mix early on. It looks like it'll be miserable for trick-or-treating. Lo and behold, who's got to take the kids trick-or-treating? It's going to be myself and the creative consultant, Mrs. Sarah Antu's Vold. But you know what? It's all about the memories. It's all about the memories. So, at the end of the day, I think it'll be all right.
Well, hopefully it is not snow, because we are not ready for that here in the great state of
We just
Minnesota.
barely had fall.
Yeah,
the
I
last
know.
week and a half, we've had fall.
80-some degrees, summer,
Yep.
fall deal. I don't know.
Yep.
This weather's crazy. So,
It is. Nuts.
Voldy, without further ado, yes, that was a very successful second annual Granite City Lumberjacks special. Had Eric Moser, Joe Clements. We had a new
Mikey.
Mikey Lawrence, a new guest on as well with Mikey Lawrence, who is a Lions fan and did wear a Jared Goff jersey to the special.
Lame.
Not great, but
Lame.
you know, it's that's his team. I mean, respect to him. You know, he's
Respect to
gotta
the
rep his
squad.
team. You know, respect to the squad. So, yeah, that was fantastic. Thank you to everyone who set that up. Kerf Doctor as well, running the controls. As we had our little chat, it was fantastic. But without further ado, Voldy, before we even move forward, pick 'em. Guys, get those picks in. This is your reminder before we get that started this Thursday. I believe it is Texans and Jets this Thursday. So that's an interesting one. Stephon Diggs, unfortunately, out for the rest of the season, tore his ACL. It's been a while since Diggs has had a very major injury, and unfortunately he did. But we will hope to see him soon. But CJ Stroud and the Texans will be taking on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, and not looking good for those Jets, Voldy. I will say that. Oh my gosh. Oof. But your Patriots did get that W, so we're sitting.
Huge.
They're sitting pretty. They're sitting pretty. So as I was basically given some time here, because I want to make sure we got who we have in first place for our pick'em right now. I believe our guy Super T. That is Tyler Hermann is leading the picks.
All right.
So what happens? Does he get the signed Drake London and Terrell Day? I mean, I don't know how this works.
I would assume that's how it's going to work. But with him being the one that's beholding said helmets upon the winners, maybe he'll default to whoever finishes in fourth place. I don't know.
That's an option. Definitely an option. Right behind him is Victor. Victor, our guy Victor. He's still in line for a signed helmet as well. Do we know who Birdie 151999 is? Anybody? No one? Okay.
I could figure of a few gals named Birdie, but I highly doubt any of them are in the Pick'em League. I have no idea. No idea.
Dang. Crazy, man. But Mikey Ryan right behind Birdie until we find that. So shout out to Mikey there. Mikey Ryan, that being, by the way.
Yes.
I didn't want to mess that up. All right. Jared says, hey, Rogers is drinking, is it cayenne?
Cayenne pepper. Yeah.
Cayenne with his water now. They're going to go on a hot streak. You know what I say to that? Bullshit. That's what I say. That's all I got to say with that. They play the Texans, and the Texans, without Diggs and Nico Collins, they still got Mixon, who has been on fire, by the way. Speaking of which. So, anyway, get those picks in, get that rolling. But, Voldy, we have a lot to get to tonight. Tater Tot Hot Take. We are talking about that Viking loss, unfortunately, against the I was about to say St. Louis for a second there. Los Angeles Rams. There's no diss by any means, but I miss St. Louis, you know. But you will talk about that. We're going to talk about the upcoming game against the Colts. Vikings made a couple moves. We'll talk about that. And then the Wolves has obviously started their season. They're 2-2. We'll talk about the game last night. We'll kind of go from there, talk about that. And then Voldy's Virtues. We're heading to the Temple of Wisdom. Voldy's got some off-season things to talk about with the Minnesota Twins. I can't wait for that one, especially. So so make sure you tune into that after Hot Take. And then ARA, we've got a plethora of cool stuff. Jordanaddison wants to free 3. We'll talk about that, with that whole ordeal there. The Bears fall on that Hail Mary. Mitch Ribby, where are you? I don't see you. Where are you right now? The Chiefs trade for the pass rusher. Is it Uche from the Patriots, Voldy?
Uche, I believe.
Uche. I like that.
Yeah.
And then the Colts benching Anthony Richardson to start Joe Flacco. Talk about that. And then to round things off, dwaynewade statue.
Woof.
That was, we'll talk about that too. There's a lot to say with that. And then obviously we got shield shoutouts tonight as well. So, Voldy, before we do that, Jason Schmitz, let's go Rams. That's what he did. Go Rams,
Yeah.
Fine, you won. We'll give you that.
Congrats.
We're going to talk about that awful face mask for a second, though, too. Just wait. We're going to do it.
Just wait.
So, let's get it going with some Tater Tot Hot Take.
Fresh out of the oven, it's Tater Tot Hot Take.
All right, it is time for some Tater Tot Hot Take. We start things off tonight with our Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, the Rams stunned the Vikings in SoFi Stadium, 30-20. The Vikings fall to the Los Angeles Rams. A lot of storylines into that game and during that game as well. There's a lot to be said. And obviously there was the face mask. We will get to that in a second. But overall, the Minnesota Vikings didn't necessarily play well defensively. They looked tired at times during that game. And losing Christian Darrisaw for the season definitely hurt. When they were about to go into halftime, and unfortunately, Rams player falls into him, engaged with Jared Verse, tore MCL and ACL. So that is unfortunate because we love Christian Darrisaw here, and he will definitely be missed the rest of the season. But the Vikings did make a move as well. We'll talk about that. But Voldy, I want your thoughts. Zoners, you saw my thoughts on the if you didn't, you gotta check it out. I was pissed, and also I was dealing with a cold at the time too. So apologies if you hear a hoarse voice, as people would say. Voldy, what were your overall thoughts on the game, and anything that we haven't talked about? What do you got?
I mean, the way the game started, 4 drives, 4 touchdowns, you thought we were going to have ourselves a good old-fashioned shootout in L.A. at SoFi. But things from that point, once the Rams came back and obviously tied things up, I mean, the fact that we were getting the ball to, getting them to no names with Trent Sherfield and who's the guy that scored the other touchdown to open things up for the Vikings. The fact that we're diving deep
Josh
into
Oliver.
the roster, yeah, Josh Oliver. Thank you. The fact that we're throwing the ball to 3rd and 4th string guys in the opening series meant that we were starting to feel ourselves a little bit early, and I felt like at that point things were going to take a bit of a turn there. The Vikings run game was starting to go right off the bat there too with Jones on top of it, but then the pressure just really started to ramp up from the Rams. Jared Verse had a really nice game, a little bit more consistent pressure as the game kind of went along, and that's what's kind of hurt the Vikings in a few games as of recent. I mean, even going all the way back to probably even the Jets game, the game before that, the pressure has really started to ramp up on the side where the offensive line has had to, unfortunately, has given up a few more sacks, which has led to Sam Darnold, getting a little bit more pressure on him and turning the ball over, even getting hit a few more times than we saw at the beginning portion of the season. Losing Darrisaw, absolutely crushing, but the one solace in the fact is you lost him fairly early enough in the season to where we could see him make that full comeback and be ready to go by the season opener of 2025. At least that you have that to go off of, but still hurts, especially one of probably our best lineman on the field, and he gets hurt and gets thrown into as the game kind of went along. The Vikings had multiple chances to get the Rams off the field. A couple of penalties that didn't go, a couple penalties that actually extended drives to create touchdowns, at least 2 scores against the Vikings, and of course the face mask at the end of it. But before we get to that, completely out of left field with pukanacua coming back from what was going to be a much long extended injury, then finds out, before the game, like, oh yeah, he's good to go. He's going to play. Him and Cooper Kupp looked like, the old Cooper Kupp and Pukanacua of even last year and Cooper of years before. with them being just stellar receivers and finding openings and great play from them that really put the Vikings in a bind. And when the Vikings needed, something to happen on their side, at least to set up a drive that would have tried to at least tie the game up, they get screwed by the refs yet again on the worst non-call I have probably seen ever. And that's definitely saying something, because there's been a lot of bad non-calls made. I mean, I honestly don't know what that referee's looking at with the face mask. And Matt, I know we had your thoughts on all of it. I just don't understand. You can be that close, the referee aside, not call it. The guy on the other side of the field who's probably got a better look of it, he not call it. The guy standing 10 yards in front of the play, not call it. The guy over there on that far side of the field with the chain gang not call it. The back judge all the way on the other side of the end zone not call it too. I mean, nobody even had any recollection or inclination to say, hey, I think we might have missed that call. I'm going to throw a flag here. None of it. And it leads to a safety. We got to kick the ball back. And at that point, it's all a moot point and just completely ended up being obviously a 10-point loss, but really an 8-point loss at the end of it. And just completely... I've been saying it all week. Sports are rigged. Sports are rigged. This is some Illuminati type shit that happened, and the National Football League found another way to screw Minnesota. So what else is new?
Like I said in the video, first the links, now the Vikings. But in this instance, and I want to preface this because I think people sometimes take things out of context when I make these videos. It's like, you know what you're talking about. They wouldn't have won that. They'd have to go all the way down and score a touchdown. Listen, I said at the beginning of the video that that's not the reason why they lost the game. Okay? I'm talking about how all of those referees missed that call. And it's not me saying like, oh, we would have won the game or tied the game and everything like that. What I'm saying is they need to do something and actually discipline some of these referees for these calls. The fact that they said they didn't see it, and you see stuff coming up online of not only two, but 3, 4 referees watching that play, and yet none of them did anything. They came back and they discussed it, and they said, "Oh, I didn't see it." I don't know how you really explain that and not have discipline. And it's like maybe they did it behind closed doors. I don't know. But listen, that is inexcusable. If that happened in a playoff game, well, you talk about the Aints and the Rams and everything like that. They didn't call it. It's payback for one. But again, they need to have some of these plays reviewed because it was clear as day. I mean, the only way they're going to throw that flag is if, like, Sam Darnold snaps his neck. So, we talked about it. I won't go too much into it, but that's not the reason why they lost the game. The Rams outplayed the Vikings, and I say that with the utmost confidence because they did. And I'm being a realist here. They played better than us. Our defense didn't come to play for some odd reason. Our defensive backs looked lost. There's a lot to be said. But let's get to Jason, since obviously he is Rams fan, and getting his perspective. He agrees to bad call, no doubt. But the Vikes had plenty of chances that game. Exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Jefferson got you down to the 5 and ended up with a field goal, yes. And I want to bring up a specific play. I think it was either third or the fourth. I think it was the fourth. 3rd and 4, Sam Darnold escapes the pocket. A lot of people are like, oh, he should have ran for the first down. But that throw to Jalen Nailor was right on the money. And Nailor dropped it. He dropped it. I mean, he's obviously getting the first down, but he quite possibly walks into the end zone.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So that's a missed chance. And again, like Jason said, that's a missed chance. Yep. And that's not me saying, oh, we got screwed by the refs, we would have beat the Rams. No, we wouldn't have, because They had no timeouts and everything like that, but that play specifically, Voldy and zoners, and you let us know what your thoughts on the game was too. But another factor to this, and I think that we'll talk about this in a second, but God, do they miss T.J. Hawkinson right now? I mean, I mean, no offense to Oliver, no offense to Munt. Robert Tanyan was probably in maybe 2 plays. Anyway, we need another target out there. And Jordanaddison, I feel like we need to get him involved a little bit. We'll talk about his situation in ARA. But the run game, I mean, why wouldn't they stick with the run game? Those first 2 drives, Voldy, they were running it down the Rams' throat. Why not use Aaron Jones? At that point, I would assume Cam Akers would have been ready to take some snaps. Ty Chandler maybe a little bit. But they went away from that and they went to the passing game, which, again, can work. Yes, they don't have a very good secondary. Jason can admit that, at least. Yep. And if you're going to if you're successful running the ball, keep doing it. So I think KOC just probably, I think they've learned from that. And also, Nakua looked like he, maybe the first couple plays he looked like he shouldn't be out there. And then as he started to heat up, he looked a lot better. So I just don't think we had an answer for Kupp and Nakua, because I don't think we were worried about Nakua playing. And then all of a sudden he's playing. We get, thrown. He's getting over 100 yards. Kupp gets a touchdown on that play. We miss the tackle or the sack, I should say, with Harrison Phillips, who had him pretty much dead to rights, just whiffed on it. And our interior pass rush isn't good. With our D line, it's like that was just non-existent. So. I expect the Vikings probably to make a move on that, because if you can't have interior, I mean, if you can't have interior pressure, that's not good. You can get, Gink, obviously, and Grenard, and we got to get Dallas Turner going. I don't know what they got to do to get him rolling. Pat Jones.
Dallas Turner has all but disappeared after the first 2 games, and he's been on special teams. Like, I don't know.
I saw that,
he ended up getting a penalty on special teams. I'm like, I didn't even know he was playing in the first place. And the fact that he hasn't been, obviously on the D line and providing pressure of any kind, and that he's been relegated to special teams play. I'm not saying that's a factor, but you add that on top of the list of Blake Cashman being out, injuries and inconsistency on the offensive line, key drops in key situations, just adding on the list of reasons why the Vikings have recently hit this 2-game skid. Just, on top of it all, even on the defensive side, which has been a sore note the last couple of years, especially, it doesn't help. It doesn't help overall.
One thing I do want to put as a bright spot to this, because I think we can definitely move on to Sunday night here. You have some reinforcements coming back. You have Hawkinson. It sounds like Hawkinson's ready to go. I would expect him to be ready to go Sunday night. Not only that, but Dalton Reisner should be good to go as well. I don't know how they're going to I think he should be at right guard right now, because Ed Ingram, and he didn't really – I don't know if he really had any bad snaps this past game against the Rams, but you got to solidify that spot, because he could be the end of us if that's the case.
Very well could be, yeah.
So I think, I'm gonna put this into perspective, because the Rams were the better team. They got it done. They beat us. That's just how it is. Jefferson was great. I mean, no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Over 100 yards. Wish he had a tutty, but it is what it is. But he was fantastic, as always. Even Sam Darnold was very good, even though I think he backs up way too much when he gets sacked. But, we can't have that. The penalties were bad, too, even though some of them are kind of stupid. And that crew was awful, by the way, too. So they should be fired for sure. But yeah, the Rams were the better team. And you tip your cap to them. They beat us. So let's move on to Sunday night against the Colts. Couple storylines coming into this game. Obviously, Anthonyrichardson will not be the starting quarterback on Sunday night. It will be Joeflacco. Yes, Voldy knows Joeflacco very well when he when those Ravens and Patriots went head-to-head.
Elite Joeflacco.
Elite Joeflacco. All right, there we go. So,
as my one good friend Noah Caruso would say, is that he is elite. Super Bowl winner, Super Bowl MVP, elite.
It's true.
Joeflacco.
No interceptions that postseason either, I believe, from that Super Bowl run.
Yeah.
During the playoffs, I should say. But
yes.
So now you have a healthy Jonathan Taylor. You have some pretty good wide receivers. Pittman, Downs. Mo Alley Cox sometimes has some good plays as well, which is kind of strange in itself. But this is a game the Vikings absolutely, positively need to win. You have to beat this team. The fact that it got flexed to Sunday night puts a little bit more pressure on them, but I mean the pressure should be on them because a lot of people like myself, like you, and a lot of people saying they're the best team in the NFL. Then all of a sudden they lose to the Lions. Okay, they were competitive, could have gone either way, but then you go to this game and you're like, what the hell happened? So this is a very crucial game. They have to come out with a victory if they want to be serious about being a contender and everything like that. I haven't given up hope, but man, it would be a tough blow if we lost.
This is a trap game.
Yeah, trap game. Trap game. Trap game.
I mean, you could put the whole season down on this contest right here, just the way the Vikings have played as of late. This could be either a turnaround to say, all right, the Vikings going to win 7 of the next 8 contests after this one, or it could be, all right, we're still in the thick of it. We're 5-3 now. We're on to Cincinnati, wherever we play the week after. It might be another divisional game. I'm not sure. But this is a trap game. Honestly, both teams are looking to make it a statement. I mean, the Colts' record is indicative of them not being where they want to be at, especially when you have Richardson coming back from injury and him tapping himself out of last week's contest because he was tired to bring in Joeflacco. Joeflacco's already started a couple of games this season and has balled out in many different ways, and which has been quite productive for a guy last year who came in towards the back half of last season off the couch and led the Browns to a playoff spot. And that does not bode well. And I even remember, too, before we even got on the show tonight, I'm like, oh, no, we got to face Joeflacco. It all depends. Which Joeflacco are we going to get? Are we going to get the one that is, elite and just spreading the ball everywhere, making guys look foolish? Or are we going to be the one that holds on to the ball too long and gets sacked 4 times, end up throwing 2 or 3 pick sixes? I hope for the latter compared to the former, because the defense needs a shot in the arm and they need a confidence builder in many, many different ways. But this is as defining of a trap game as possible here for the Vikings.
Trap game. This is the first time you used trap game this season, Voldy. So that is very true. So let me go through a couple things. And through this article, and I agree with this, from Matthew Collier, if that's what his last name is. Anyway, he predicts that Aaron Jones will have his first 150-yard game. And I don't know if that's rushing or if that's all scrimmage yards, too, with receiving. But still, nonetheless, that's what we need. And I feel like going into this game, Zoners, Voldy, is utilizing him as much as possible. You utilize him, you open up routes for Jets, for Addison, for Hawkinson. Jalen Naylor, you got to redeem yourself a little bit this upcoming game. Which, again, we all make mistakes, right? It just happens. But that's why you have to utilize what you have. You have the weapons with Jones and whatnot. And then we get to the O-line. You go up against a front where Jared Verse was very good. And, you know, you got to give him credit where credit's due. He did the skol chant thing. But I will remind Jared Verse that when people mock the skol chant, it usually doesn't go well, even if you beat us down the line. Karma can come back to you. I'm just saying. Just keep in tune with that. So yeah, I think, you know, keeping Darnold clean pocket, let him go through his reads, make plays. If he's got to use his legs, he can use his legs, and he's very good at getting away. So got to watch out, see if they're going to put in Reisner over Ingram, but we'll see. The Vikings defense, pressure on Flacco. No ifs, ands, or buts. Stop the run with Taylor. It is imperative that they do that. I really hope this is a big Jonathan Grenard game, or it could be the gangster, Van Ginkel, which, again, he played pretty well against the Rams last week. And our hope is that, you know, Grenard has a big game here. So, you know, Matthew says 2 sacks for Grenard and a forced fumble. They need that. If they get to the quarterback, the Vikings are in good shape. Because they definitely need Flo, or Flo needs to cook. You know, we got to see him cook. Yes. So, forcing turnovers. The Vikings did have an interception last week against the Rams. We got to see Byron Murphy had the interception. I think a lot of teams are starting to target Byron Murphy, so I think we have to be wary of that as well. So, hopefully, with a bunch of turnovers, the Vikings can get this done. So, absolute must-win for the Minnesota Vikings, and hopefully they can get the dub. Last thing before we move on to our Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Vikings did acquire a left tackle for after losing Christian Darrisaw for the season. The Vikings acquire Cam Robinson from the Jacksonville Jaguars. Welcome to Minnesota, Cam Robinson. Draft pick compensation. Basically, the Vikings gave up very little. They did get a conditional 7th-round pick. The Jaguars get a 2026 5th-round choice that could become a 4th-round pick based on playing time. So it sounds like Cam Robinson is going to be starting on Sunday night, and he has done very well these past few games for Jacksonville. He did suffer a concussion. They took him out, and then I think he should be good to go for Sunday night. So, Voldy, what are your thoughts on Cam Robinson, or Vikings landing Cam Robinson? What do you think?
Yeah, obviously the move is necessary with losing Darrisaw for the season, and just really, again, bolstering an offensive line that we could use as much help as possible. With Robinson, he was a very promising draft pick coming out of Alabama fairly recently, too. And, you know, with the Jaguars' record being what it is this season, not entirely on him or the offensive line as a whole, but he has been quite productive in his time in the NFL. I think this is a good move, especially with Quessenberry, who did step in against the Rams and honestly didn't play all that well coming cold off the bench, and definitely looking at the back half of his career for sure. I think this is a smart move. I think we could see big things from Robinson on that O-line for the Vikes.
I think this is the best thing that they can do right now and what was available. And I think he's been a starter in this league for a long time for Jacksonville. He's only given up 4 sacks this season so far, which is not bad. But this is a good rental. Basically, that's what it is. And the Jags are actually paying a lot of his salary. So Cam Robinson, I think, is a good addition. I think learning the terminology and everything for, pass protection and things like that, I think the Vikings O-line will be great with that. O'Neal would be, Brandel, he's going to be right next to, who has played very well too. So I think, I wouldn't say it would be seamless, but it's a good thing for Minnesota. So we will watch on Sunday, see how things go. All right. Let's quick move on to our Minnesota Timberwolves. They start off the season 2-2. Not too bad. Obviously, very early in the season. They lost to the Dallas Mavericks last night. Our hated rival, yes, Luca, the whole deal. Apparently he was trash talking, and I guess, it's the Wolves versus Luca, pretty much. A lot of people don't like Luca, and obviously he iced the game on another shot that he daggered Minnesota there. Voldy, what are your thoughts so far on this Minnesota Timberwolves team post Karl Anthony Towns? What are your thoughts? What do you got?
Still very competitive. Obviously, the first couple games of the season, you're still working in new pieces overall. But can we also bring up the fact that in that first quarter against Dallas, Anthony Edwards had 24 points out of 34 scored in the first quarter for the T-Wolves? I mean, that was it's a record at the Target Center for Anthony Edwards. He's still the same player that we thought. Again, still very early on in the season. A lot of new pieces working in. Julius Randle has been a very nice piece to see on, obviously scoring double digits. He had 20 and 7 against Dallas the other night. So that's good to see him getting his scoring touch and at least being a little bit more free. Now, again, like we've said in past with working in guys like, Gobert, where do they fit into the rotation and how do you mesh that all together with Ant, with Gobert, and with Naz Reid and all those guys, just to make sure everything flows right. Guys are more comfortable with each other. But 2-2 on the season, 80 some more games to go, 70 some more games to go. I'm not overly worried. It just would have been really nice to beat Dallas last night and, shove it down their throats.
That's a great way to put it. I wish they would have beaten too. Voldy, I did just see the shot that he had to, put an end to the game. I mean, he just put up a prayer. I mean, honestly, he was being well defended too, and he just makes it. And again, that's going to happen. And he played well. He was 10 of 27. All right, excuse me. He wasn't that even that good. He still had 24 points. He was 1 of 8 from 3. That was his only 3. God wow, that sucks. Anyway, but unfortunately, the Wolves did lose. But Anthony Edwards, you mentioned it, starting the season hot, and I think post Cat we're going to be seeing a lot of those games where he's going to be dropping a lot of points. The question is, can our bench do the same thing that they did last year in coming off the bench scoring? Looks like Randall's been really good. After the first game, people were calling him to be gone. He's been killing it these past few games. He's 20 points last night. Jaden McDaniels, 13. And off the bench, our guy, our tribal chief, Naz Reid. Acknowledge your tribal chief. Reid. He had 14. So, again, they're getting that. And very early in the season, the Wolves will probably be playing the Mavs again here. It is on Christmas. Oh, well, that'll be a great game.
Wonderful.
At Dallas, unfortunately. But that'll be a tough go. So, the Wolves, I'm feeling confident. After last season, I think they're going to be a playoff team for sure. How far? We'll see. A lot can happen between now and then. Mike Conley's been off to an okay start, but I'd like to see some of these young guys get in there, like Dillingham and Shannon as well. We'll see how they progress throughout the season. So we'll keep up to date on Wolves. We know that the Gophers will be playing this weekend against Illinois. That's going to be a tough matchup. The Wild have been on a hell of a streak. Marc-Andre Fleury played one last time in Pittsburgh. Congrats to the Wild winning 4-3 last night. So claps out to them. We'll be talking more Wild next week because they've been playing really well. So we will be talking more with that. So another team to be talked about is the Minnesota Twins. It is the offseason for the Minnesota Twins. Not a whole lot happening besides, the pull ads finally saying that they're going to sell the team. We'll see. We talked about it at our special with Joe Clements. Make sure you check that out too. But Voldy's got some thoughts. We're going to head to the Temple of Wisdom. We're going to give some thoughts on hopefully some offseason moves. They sell the team. They're not going to sell the team. I mean, I guess we'll find out. But let's head to the Temple of Wisdom for Voldy's virtues.
He has emerged from the Temple of Wisdom. Gather round for Voldy's Virtues.
And by the way, yes, Temple of Wisdom. But we're going to hop out of the Temple of Wisdom for a second because...
Just sidebar.
Sidebar. Voldy, pick 'em this week. You're playing for a prize now. You're playing for a prize now, Zoners. So get those picks in. Voldy, what could the Zoners win this week if they get the top picks? Oh, yeah, I love it. Let's go.
MinneZona Sports Live. Tumbler, that's right. Get a head start on your holiday shopping here. Of course, it's going to be a little bit cold out for Halloween tomorrow. Have one of these bad boys. Keep your hot drinks hot, your cold drinks cold, and make those picks. This bad boy come home with you.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And it comes with the box, too. I mean, how great is that?
Shipping and handling included.
Yes, very much so. So we're in the Temple of Wisdom. So, Voldy, enlighten us with your knowledge.
Well, we, of course, are now... The World Series is very much well in hand at this point. The Los Angeles Dodgers do lead the New York Yankees 3-1. Very well could see Game 5 go to the way of the Dodgers, and thus would end the Major League Baseball season. But with that, for a team that's been in the offseason for almost a month's time now at this point, is your beloved Minnesota Twins. Now, there has been some fair amount of news with the Twins season ending. Of course, the GM coming out and saying that Rocco Baldelli is still the manager, will be the manager for next season. He is staying instead of leaving, and also that the P.O.D are quite possibly looking into selling the franchise. Now, with that, there also comes with, what are we going to do with the team coming into 2025? We were hampered by injuries in the back half of the season, had a 95% chance in the final month of the season to make it to the playoffs, and we completely pissed it down our leg. Now, there are 5 key things I'm going to bring up here with the Twins offseason, things that need to be addressed. We'll start off with number 5. Number 5 is, who's on first? No, we're not talking Abbott Costello. We are talking who's going to be playing first base for the Minnesota Twins. I mean, we've seen just about anybody and everybody play first base. Juan Miranda, Carlos Santana played very well over at first for the Twins this season. We saw a little bit of Christian Vasquez. Alex Kirilloff as well, when healthy, was also over at first base. But who do we keep around long enough to fill out that spot has been sorely needed, and that's been needing reassurance over the last couple of seasons. It's been kind of a revolving door. We had Donovan Solano play there a couple years ago. We've had guys up and down the lineup and on the team play over at first base at a position that was, formerly occupied Justin Morneau. We had Joe Mauer over there. We had a lot of, former great first basemen at that position that were nothing really to worry about. But in the last few years has been, again, a revolving door. We even seen Edouard Julien go from second base, sent down to the minors, and playing a little bit more first base with the St. Paul Saints. But is that going to be good enough, even when he's healthy, and his bat has been quite useful in times, again, when fully healthy? Like I said, Carlos Santana has been decent enough to continue, but can he continue to find that fountain of youth that he did find this season? But sadly, I don't think that's going to be enough. He's been inconsistent a little bit in the last few years when it comes to striking out and, just overall playing time. I mean, he's bounced around from team to team the last few years and just hasn't been quite have the same longevity as he started off his career when he was a Twins killer back in Cleveland. Now, again, with Kirilloff, has been nothing but hurt over the last season and a half, and very well could be on his way out entirely in baseball with the significant back injury that he's dealt with and trying to come back from that. Even with playing with the St. Paul Saints, just hasn't been the same highly touted player that we saw a few seasons ago. Now, again, with Juan Miranda, could be the answer, very well could be, but has been seeing a lot more action from him over at third base or even DH duties at that same time, barring a significant move in free agency. More on that coming up. A lot of questions at who's going to be at first. for 2025. Up to the number 4 spot, we got to figure out our outfield. Who's in left? Who's in right? Can Buxton be healthy enough to be productive from that center field position? Now, the outfield logjam has held the Twins back the last handful of years, but a few options that will be leaving due to free agency, including the likes of Manuel Margot, I should say, is one of them. But what can be done with guys like Max Kepler, Byron Buxton, Trevor Larnach, Matt Wallner as well, and even some promising upstarts out of the AAA level? And we've been one to note that Max Kepler should have been traded about 4 or 5 years ago when the stock was as high as possible. Buxton has been again hampered by injuries. A couple seasons ago was a highly touted MVP candidate through the first 60-some games on the season and then got hurt. Trevor Larnach and also Matt Wallner have been quite promising, at least at a sparing duty out in the outfield position. But that small sample size has been there. But if given the full opportunity to patrol those positions out in the corner spots, could that play well for the Twins in years to come? That has yet to be seen. Up to number 3, what's the back half of the rotation looking like? Who is going to be number 4? Who's going to be number 5 in the starting rotation? After Pablo Lopez, Joe Ryne, and even Bailey Ober this year, who do we have behind the two of them? Does Randy Dobnak make a comeback and make a return even after spending the last few years down in AAA? I don't know. Does Simeon Woods Richardson make the jump to a full-time starter and become that guy that the Twins can rely on that 5th day of a day game maybe? The Twins should definitely make a move or two in the pitching rotation, and that's one thing that we've been harping on for years and years that the Twins need. What is it, Matt? What do the Twins need?
Pitching!
That's right. They need pitching, especially when you've got free agents out there like Trevor Bauer, who was MVP of the Mexican League, was just stellar and lights out going up against guys that, are fighting their way back to the MLB or in the twilight of their career. But still, productive baseball is good baseball. Trevor Bauer is available out there and willing to pitch for the league minimum. And how can you not pass up the opportunity for a guy that was a Cy Young Award winner not even 5 years ago? Up to the number 2 spot. If the Twins this one is really more about the start of the season. Now, I'm not even talking about the offseason. This is just something to note of to open up the 2025 season. If the Twins do struggle at the beginning portion of the 2025 season, Rocco Baldelli needs to go. Now, we've seen, if anything, over the last few years that teams are willing to pull the plug on a manager if things get off to a bad start early in the season. The Twins have not really looked the same when they had that beginning success with Rocco Baldelli ever since Derek Shelton left for Pittsburgh and Mike Bell, unfortunately, he did pass away from cancer a few years ago. Shelton, has really started to see things turn around, at least for Pittsburgh, with the rising start of success with their very young and promising rotation, good young core group of infielders, and just overall really good prospects coming up to the major league level, while the Twins continue to be pulling back and holding down their youth until it's almost too late for them to be as promising as they could have been, i.e. Brooks Lee. See how that plays out if it does into 2025. I would not be surprised if the Twins start off with a significant losing record in the first 50 games of the season, 50 games out of 162. If the Twins have that losing record, find themselves in the bottom 2 spots in the division, Rocco's ass will be grass, and he is out of there. Mark my words on that. And of course, the final thing with the offseason moves that the Twins need to look at, honestly, the Pohlad family needs to sell the team. It's just time. You've had multiple chances since coming into ownership. You've seen many division championships, the happy to be their Twins of the late Metrodome days, making it all the way to the ALDS last year and getting us a new ballpark, revitalizing the Twins name and rebrand, promising players through the minor leagues, and returning players coming back and bringing them back into the fold and making them a part of the franchise once again. It's been great. It just hasn't been enough. You've sat on your hands and your wallets too long enough. It's time. since they put out the news of looking into possibly putting the team out for the sale, hope has been given once again for hopefully some new blood to be put into this franchise that sorely and definitely needs to win. It's been long enough since, obviously, of the big four sports that a championship in Minnesota has taken place. We've seen success, obviously, with the WNBA and the PWHL last season. The women's professional leagues in Minnesota have done fairly well in their time. But if finding an investor and or investor group would also garner new interest in a team that does not really get a fair shake when it comes to competition at that standpoint. It would be more willing to this if it be a new owner or ownership group. They would definitely feel, I would certainly hope they would feel more willing to be competitive when it comes to going after top free agents and winning and putting on a winning team on the field and make Minnesota a destination place. Not only the fact are you going to get a good contract, but obviously play in front of a beautiful ballpark, play in front of great fans, and put together, obviously, a winning team and make a decent run. At the end of it, the ultimate number one move that needs to be made this offseason, the Twins need the P.O.D family to put them out there and find somebody to put in a couple $1 billion into the franchise and sell the team outright. So that's what I've got here with those desperately needed moves here for the Twins and this offseason.
Before I even say anything, that was well said. And honestly, you couldn't have said, you killed it. And I would say with this whole, I don't need to speak on the P.O.Ds, the whole deal with me. But Rocco, I feel like I agree with you. If things go south, I think you have to. And you need a jolt within that organization. And, if they're, I don't know, I think they hired a hitting coach or something like that recently. But I do know a pitching coach that might be out there. Voldy, I think you know that pitching coach as well. Mm-hmm. Coach Bo! Call him! Call up Coach Bo! He'll fix all of our pitching issues. I 100% agree if they go out for Coach Bo. But that's something to keep an eye on as well. But Rocco, the 4-5 starters, the pitching, like we said too, very key. Trevor Bauer's out there, just do it. Who cares? Buxton, every year we say this. If he's healthy, they're good. If he's not, they're screwed. Mm-hmm. It's just annoying. So, well said, Voldy. Stamp of approval on virtues. This is something to where I want to see some change to be had, and knowing that, hey, you know what, they're going to switch up some things. They're going to do some, they're going to make some moves and things like that. Like, we need to see that. And, we all know that the P.O.Ds aren't baseball people whatsoever. Right. So that's just kind of the whole thing with this. And, sell the team, sell it to somebody who actually gives a crap, and see where it goes from there. So, anywho, great job with virtues of this week. Thanks, sir. ARA, we've got a lot to hit on, and that is one with the whole drama with Jordanaddison. We'll start off with that. And then those Chicago Bears lose on a Hail Mary. We can't find Mitch Ribby. I don't know where he is. Hopefully he is okay. And whatnot. But the Chiefs trade for a pass rusher that they desperately needed. Well, I won't say desperately. They added more fuel to the fire, which they will be doing quite well. We talked about a little bit the Colts benching Anthonyrichardson for joeflacco, and then the Wade statue. We end it on an interesting note. We'll talk about that too. So, Voldy, I say we get it going. What's up? Or approved.
It's time for everyone's favorite segment, Absurd or Approved.
All right, it is time for Absurd or Approved. So, Voldy, why don't you rattle them off for us, please?
Well, we start in the world of the NFL, and maybe a post on social media is not always what it seems to be. Of course, following a loss to the Los Angeles Rams Thursday night, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Jordanaddison, no, he doesn't want to get traded. No, he doesn't need more targets, as one would think. But apparently, people are making a lot of noise about a social media post where he posted his number 3 jersey with the caption, quote, "Free 3," a message that led to widespread speculation. Of course, he did reiterate on Monday that he has used the phrase all the way dating back to his time at the University of Pittsburgh, and he finished his career at USC. And later, a screenshot of an Instagram post that from that time period did clarify the situation. Now, he did say that he does not want to get traded. No, he doesn't want more targets, or he doesn't feel like he should need more targets, but people are definitely throwing out a lot of speculation of what maybe said disgruntleization, if that's even a word, that the wide receiver, and now in the midst of a 2-game losing streak with the Vikings, has thrown out. Now, of course, with social media being what it is it absurd or approved? Is Jordanaddison upset? Is he not upset with the lack of targets, or does he want to go somewhere else, given his social media posts with the caption "Free 3"?
With the caption "Free 3," I believe him. He's used it before. We all know the ordeal with that. Now, Jordanaddison was hurt a little bit these first few games. Now he's back. The lack of targets, I mean, it's noticeable because we haven't seen much. I think he had like 2 receptions on Thursday against the Rams. But I did see a stat, too, that he has been getting separation. Sam just hasn't seen him open or something like that. Right. So I don't think he's upset, or I don't think he's upset. I just think he wants to make sure that he is involved with this offense, and I think he is. Mm-hmm. The question is, can Sam, or is it something that Sam Darnold's doing? Is it something that is just not finding him, or it's just unlucky? But when they've thrown the ball to him, he's usually caught it and has had good gains. Right. Now, let's talk about the post. And he said "Free 3." People took that as, and I think Shannon Sharp and Ocho Cinco talked about it on their podcast, saying like, oh, you're in no shape to make any demands, and things like that. And it's like, right. While that's true, I think people are missing the point of what he was saying, and he retweeted or reposted what they said, and he said, do your homework before you say anything. And he explained it. There was the chain. It was from his draft and whatnot. I just think he just had a lapse in judgment and didn't realize, like, maybe this isn't going to go over well with people. And especially with his current situation, if he's asking for a trade and the Vikings have done everything in their power to try and help him, right. That's kind of, scummy in the least. I would say that it's noticeable, but I think if he goes to the coaches, he goes to KOC, he goes to Wes Phillips, and he says, listen, guys, can I get like more involved with this? Because, I have the talent and whatnot. And I think they probably said, yeah, let's talk, because honestly, we need you, and we do, because this past game, yeah, we can get it to Jefferson and whatnot, right. But we also need more contributors from wide receiver 2 to 3. Now you're bringing Hockenson back. I think that frees up more targets for Jordanaddison. So the hope is that you can get it with that. I wouldn't say he's upset. So I'd say it's absurd. He's not upset. He's just saying like, hey, let's try to find a way to do this. And as for the post, I don't think it meant like, I needed attention from this. It's national media people blowing this up out of proportion, I feel like. This isn't a dig situation where he deleted every Vikings reference off his Instagram page or something like that, like we've seen in the past. But in this instance, I believe him, and I think he's going to be involved and involved early on Sunday night. So, I'll say it's absurd. But I think they're going to try to find a way to get him the ball because, again, he is a dangerous wide receiver. I believe it. Mm-hmm. So, Voldy, what do you think?
Yeah, I look at it from the standpoint, 2 games that should have been wins for the Vikings. There's probably maybe overall from the team, I'm just talking about from Addison's perspective, there's probably a little frustration. Like, yes,
Sure.
We had 2 games where we should have won, or it should have been a much better performance from the offense than it was. I think now with Hawkinson being thrown back into the mix here for weeks to come and for the season, I think Addison's really putting out a point. It's like, hey, I'm here. I still want to contribute. I want to be, I want to be looked at as one of the guys. I want to be a major contributor to this offense, not saying like, hey, give me the ball or I'm going to pout about it. Just like, hey, I'm here. I want to make that next step. I want to help my team. It's quite unfortunate with the phrase that he put out with free 3 that, saying, hey, I need out of here. Hey, give me the ball so I can show you that I'm the best around. I think it's more of a, him putting out the like, hey, I want to be here I want to be as helpful as I can be. Cause now with Hawkinson coming back into it, you throw him in the mix with obviously Aaron Jones, with Justin Jefferson. That will definitely play out a few more targets and a few more opportunities for Addison. And we've seen even in the time last year with Justin Jefferson being down, Addison made the most of it and was a big factor on offense in that time when Jefferson was on the mend with the hamstring. I don't think he's upset by it. He's just pointing out like, hey, I'm still here and I want to be as helpful as I can for this offense. I think it's absurd. I don't think he's worried about the number of targets or looking at other possible ventures for him in his career.
It's his second year, too. I mean, why would he be like, well, I want out? This isn't Jimmy Butler here. I mean, it's ridiculous. But Jimmy. I think people forget about it come Sunday night, and if he goes off, then everyone's going to be like, see, he's still got it. he's fine. So, fingers crossed. But anyway, let's go to another NFC North team. Voldy, what do you got?
Staying in the world of the NFL, it was the Washington Commanders marching down just outside the nation's capital for a last-second Hail Mary, or as they've dubbed it, the Hail Maryland, 18-15 over the Chicago Bears with 2 seconds left. The Commies win on that long 52-yard touchdown that ended up being a victory last second, even after the Bears marched the ball all the way down with about 23 seconds left to ultimately pull out the win for Washington. But not only was the great throw and great play made there at the end, but a lot of people pointing out what was happening before the culmination of the win for Washington, including Chicago Bears cornerback Tyreek Stevenson, who was videoed and even showing near one of the corners of the end zone, celebrating and hyping up fans of Chicago that were in attendance as the play was developing. Washington receivers coming down, ultimately making a last-second stitch effort to try to knock the ball. Ball goes up in the air, tipped out of the pile, lands to a completely vacant and wide open Noah Brown in the end zone for the ultimate touchdown victory. Now, of course, if you've seen the video, like I've watched it several 100,000 million times in the short amount, Tyreek Stevenson doesn't look all that good with him turned with his back to the play, not up until the Washington receivers about 20 yards away from the end zone. Does he fully engage, make a running jump, and even, I think at that point, he was the tallest out of that pile right there, and even tipped the ball.
Yeah.
He tipped it and lands right in the hands of Noah Brown, and was the ultimate factor in that ball being caught. Now, with that taking place, is it absurd or approved? Will we see less of Tyreek Stevenson this season in those defensive positions?
Voldy, you said this phrase when we started the Sports Zone, so I think this is quite fitting for this one.
He had his chance, and he blew it.
He had his chance, and he blew it. And then there's another thing and from your guy right here.
This guy's such an idiot here. He's always been like this here.
So Phil the Thrill even agrees with the whole Tyreek Stevenson thing. So let me say this: when players taunt and everything like that during a game, I think it's a little bit silly. Like even if it's towards the fans and whatnot. Once the clock hits 0, then you can taunt all you want. No one's gonna, unless it's just really bad. But listen. C.J. Gardner-Johnson waving goodbye to the fans after the Lions were up, 24-7 over the 49ers, waving to the fans goodbye. You know what happens there. Sean Payton doing the skol chant. We all know what happened there. And Tyreek Stevenson, the latest victim of that whole taunting situation. Yes, and I think... It was very selfish, and B, it ended up smacking him right in the face, and I think he tweeted out saying "Oh, I'm gonna learn from this and everything." Yeah, you sure as hell better, because you lost a lot of respect, and he apologized to his teammates, things like that, which he should have done. Which they'll put it into perspective there, but to me. You probably will. These next few games for sure. But I'm not complaining, because if the Bears were to win that game, which they obviously should have, the Vikings would be at the bottom with them of the division, which is insane to me, because it's only 2 games, right? And the Packers beat the Jags earlier in the day and whatnot, and I think we are going to see less of Tyreek Stevenson, and you have to be smart when the clock hits 0, and if your team has the lead, then you can do what you want. But when there's still time on the clock, even when the play's going, he's still taunting. He's just oh, yeah. You idiot! You got to be the dumbest SOB ever. And especially when he's the one that tipped it. So that's totally on him. And, it's that was a clown show. So he cost his team, and there you go. Voldy, Tate, what do you get?
I mean, the whole situation doesn't look good for Stevenson overall, but at least according to the team and his teammates said, he chose to get right up in front with the team, held himself accountable for the actions and for his actions. And, a loss is a loss in that situation. It wasn't really overall a good game by both teams, but ended up working in the end for obviously Washington in that regard. But Chicago did have their multiple chances, I would say, to even pull away from that contest, if not win, with Jaden Daniels kind of being on the mend in that one. But again, doesn't look very good for Stevenson. I mean, he got burned on a couple of key plays late in that contest, as well as the Hail Mary that did happen at the end for the Commies to win. I very well could see less of him, but at least he did say, you know what, I messed up. This one's on me, guys. So at least he didn't shy away from it and was very upfront about it all.
That's true. But even if he's not playing well, that's not good news. I mean, there's going to be guys that will be taking a spot, because after Jalen Johnson, there's really not that many good corners after him.
Right.
So, just saying. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, the Kansas City Chiefs continue to make moves ahead of the November 3rd trade deadline that is coming up here in the coming days, or November 5th. Either way, Election Day Tuesday. That's the only way I remember what the deadline is. The Chiefs decide to go out and acquire pass rusher Joshuche from the New England Patriots in a swap of a 6th-round pick for 2026. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs have been unfortunately hit by the injury bug as of late, including losing most recently tight end Jody Fortson to a knee injury that led to a corresponding move. And I also saw, I believe it was today, if not more recently, that Watson, one of their receivers, also was carted off the field at practice. So that is also putting in a few key situations for them that they are not looking at very well. Now, Uche has been quite perceptive as now a fifth-year linebacker, even though he was a healthy scratch last week in the Patriots' win against the New York Jets. But in his career, has 2 sacks in the last 6 games this season, but also 20 and a half in his career over the 5-year span as well. He did re-sign as a free agent this past season on a 1-year, $3 million deal, but adding that pass rushing depth for the Kansas City Chiefs. And I asked it last week when the Chiefs did sign and also, I should say, make that trade for DeAndre Hopkins. And I will ask again, is it absurd or approved? Does this move help solidify the Kansas City Chiefs at their chance of being a three-peat champion?
It's a good question because, again, they look like a juggernaut, even losing a lot of these players to injury. Now, the question is we're not 100% sure if Pacheco is even coming back for the backfield, but Kareem Hunt's filled in quite nicely, and especially for my fantasy team. But you don't care about that. That's okay. But this move, I think you add another pass rusher to the mix when you already have Karlaftis. You already have Chris Jones. It's looking very, very good on defense. They are really good on defense. They're one of the top defenses in the league. But for this move, it remains to be seen how much of an impact he's going to make. But I will say that when you can't have enough pass rushers. Obviously, you saw with the Vikings, Gink, Jones, Grenard, hopefully Dallas Turner. But Uche, I think, is a good add. But I'm still not ready to say that it helps solidify their three-peat because I do like their corners. I like their defensive backs with McDuffie, even losing L'Jarius Sneed. But, let's see them go up against, Buffalo here coming up or some other AFC teams and see how they fare against, I know they already beat the Ravens first game of the season, but in the playoffs they'll have to face them. But I can't say that yet because even though they are undefeated, rightfully so, I still think there's maybe a couple holes, especially if this offense keeps getting hurt. I mean, with Watson, you just mentioned, you do add DeAndre Hopkins, and I think he's going to start to ease into the offense a little bit more too. So, yeah, I'm not ready to say it. I'll say absurd. I'm not ready to say this solidifies their chance of the three-peat, but it helps nonetheless. Voldy, Tater, what do you got?
I mean, obviously last week they did make the upgrade on offense, which is definitely needed now, especially with more guys going down. Juju Smith-Schuster is coming back from the hamstring. I mean, they've bolstered the run game with the addition of, re-addition, if you will, of Kareem Hunt in Kansas City. Now the defense is obviously needed in a couple of different areas, just adding that depth, and I believe Uche does provide that depth. He's been quite productive in his time with New England, being a pass rusher and also helping out in coverage. And you're throwing in guys like Karlaftis and Dana currently as the main rushers. You can throw him, Uche, in a key situation, third, fourth, third down guy, spell a guy for a series or so, and he has definitely been quite productive in a few different areas for sure. I think it certainly does help to have him because what we've seen over the last couple of years, and especially last year, defense is the one that's allowed the Chiefs to go as far as they did last year and ultimately win their second straight Super Bowl. Throwing that into the mix and adding a lot more depth is definitely needed. So I think it's got my, I hate to say it, it's got my stamp of approval. Just if they keep adding more pieces or they just find ways to get pieces for them, especially on the defensive side of the ball, which has helped them a lot more recently in their recent wins. And, the last season and a half, it can be very deadly for them to go on another long run again.
Yeah, and that's for sure. So, yeah, it's looking good for them, to say the least. All right, next one, Voldy.
Well, as we've Mentioned earlier in the program, the Indianapolis Colts do take on the Minnesota Vikings Sunday Night Football coming up from US Bank Stadium, and the Colts decide to make a move to bench Anthony Richardson and turn to the savvy elite veteran starting quarterback in Joe Flacco, as that move was announced on Tuesday. Given the fact it has not helped Anthony Richardson, who was in the game this past week against Houston, to tap out for a play, saying, quote, that he was tired in a stretch after running and being productive in that contest that ultimately did not go the Colts' way. Now, looking back from the start of the season and the last season plus for Richardson, last year obviously did get hurt and did shut down his season prematurely, and now bouncing back and forth from starting and getting benched now in favor of the veteran Joe Flacco, who did sign this past offseason. Is it absurd or approved from what we've seen from Flacco so far this season? Will we see that Flacco magic carry the Colts to a playoff spot out of the AFC South?
Not on Sunday night.
Yep.
I'm being serious, honestly. It won't start Sunday night, but it certainly could after. The thing is with the Colts, it is just literally the biggest roller coaster you've ever seen. There are times where they're brilliant. There are times where they're just absolutely terrible. There's times where they're great. There's times, injuries and things like that. Jonathan Taylor's been in and out, but he's still very effective running back, one of the best in the league. Their defense has given us fits before, especially when we're down 33-0. But we did come back and win that game. DeForest Buckner has been a problem for the Minnesota Vikings as well. He's had a lot of success against the interior. That's why I want Reisner to start over Ingram. But I think it's possible. Listen, they're 4-4. I mean, it's not to say that they can't make a push. I think they can make a push because you look at Miami right now, too. Not a whole lot going on. They lost to the Cardinals, yes, but I still think their defense is very suspect. Tua, who knows? I mean, I'll just leave it at that. I don't need to go into that whole thing. But, the AFC, I think they could, especially with the extra playoff spot, too. So I think with Flacco, it doesn't start Sunday night because I think we'll see old man Flacco, unfortunately. But he's a smart guy. He's very, obviously he did wonders in Cleveland. And I think the defense for the Minnesota Vikings is going to play a lot better. But let's just say the Flacco magic will start not this upcoming Sunday. So I will say I'll give it my stamp of approval, but it won't happen starting Sunday night. It'll happen the week after. So, Voldy, what do you got?
I mean, it is definitely going to be an uphill battle for Indianapolis. Again, a lot of things got to go their way. They had a chance on Sunday to at least carve into it with Houston. That's kind of been laboring as of late with that division in the AFC South. I think one thing that they do need to account for is the fact that when Flacco's been in, they have been quite good on the offensive side. He's been out there slinging the ball with this young receiving core that they've got, which is going to be deadly for them, especially as they go further into the season and even in position to quite possibly make a run at the playoffs. Again, they need a lot of things to go their way, but it ain't happening Sunday night. I feel the defense for the Vikings is definitely going to have to come out with a lot of pressure and a lot of, I will say, frustration and take it out on Joe Flacco and show him for the old man that he is, and is going to be definite uphill battle for him. I could very well see, especially with that, again, the extra playoff spot and just, it's an ever-evolving, changing world in the playoff picture. There's a lot of things at play for them. They just need to get a lot more consistency, and they will get that with Flacco at quarterback, but it ain't happening Sunday night. It's got my stamp of approval otherwise.
Let's hope. That's all I got to say. All right. Let's get to this one. Last one, Voldy.
Well, in the world of the NBA was unveiled outside of the arena that was well established of the career of Dwaynewade in Miami. Well, a new statue was put out for Dwayne drew a lot of criticism for the likeness or not so good likeness of Dwayne Wade, and explained by Dwayne Wade that the statue itself, well, doesn't have to exactly look like him, has drawn multiple criticism and even jokes as well, saying the statue even looks like Lawrence Fishburne instead of Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade was quick to defend the statue and said, if I wanted it to look like me, I'd just stand outside the arena and y'all can take pictures. I care, but I don't, when it comes to the comments made about the statue and lack of likeness of Dwayne Wade on social media. Now, with the statue looking like it has, and there's been a decent stretch now of statues put up that don't exactly look like those that are being depicted on the statues. Is it absurd or approved? The Dwayne Wade statue should and will be redone due to the harsh criticism that has taken place recently.
Oh my gosh, it is terrible. Like, I don't get how you look at that, and if you're not Dwayne Wade, and say, what the hell is this? You know, like, it's, the face looks like somebody completely different. And the fact that he said, like, oh, it doesn't matter, you know, whatever, that's his right and his opinion, but who paid him to say that? That's all I got to say. I mean, who paid him to say that? I have been a big Dwayne Wade supporter. I really, ever since he was in the league, been a huge fan of D. Wade, especially how he's handled certain situations and winning those championships with Shaq, with LeBron, with Chris Bosh, and the crew there. I mean, it's quite impressive, and he was, you know, he was their rock. He was the rock there in Miami. And again, I think, will they change it? It sounds like they won't, but you know what? Social media is having fun with it. If D. Wade doesn't care, then fine, that's okay. But should they? Yes. Stamp of approval, 100%. Will they? That is a completely different story. He is Miami's all-time scoring leader, which is crazy in itself. D. Wade, you know, he was great. Looks like Lawrence Fishburne, a young Lawrence Fishburne, like you were mentioning. So, I want them to fix it. Will they? Probably not. So, that's my thought on it. Voldy, what do you got?
I mean, honestly, the statue is definitely not going to get redone. What's been done has been done. I mean, we've seen statues that they've made comparisons to recently with the likes of one of the Kobe statues. I forget one of the other ones that they also compared to looked completely different from somebody else. Oh, the Allen Iverson statue, if you will, looked like Bow Wow from Like Mike back in the day, with the size and the shape of the statue that looked like for Allen Iverson in Philly. This one's just unfortunate because you would feel like, especially someone that has been as impactful in a few different ways when it comes to Dwayne Wade, even post-career too. I mean, he's a part of he's a sports owner. He's been an ambassador of the game. He's done great things after he's hung up his jersey and everything on top of it. You'd feel like they would at least want to get one thing right, and the statue just doesn't do him justice. And the fact that he's come out and say, I care, but I don't, it is what it is, certainly speaks that he's got other things on his mind. And this is just another thing that, unfortunately, not get the same, respect that he should as a former player that was quite influential in the time in Miami, especially going from, a few hopeless years. He comes in, wins a championship with Shaq, with Alonzo Mourning, and then ushers in that new era with LeBron, with Chris Bosh as well, to ultimately a Hall of Fame career on top of it. It's just unfortunate that it won't get the same recognition and the same amount of respect that he's gotten from around the league. And it's unfortunate that it will just continue like this. Unfortunately, it's absurd. It will not get redone, because what's been done's been done.
Couldn't agree more. But listen, why didn't they contact the people in Canton, the Basketball Hall of Fame or something, be like, hey, you guys do a great job with bust. Can you do Dwaynewade? Oh, yeah, sure, no problem. It seems like whoever did it just was like, we'll make it look like him, and then everything looks fine until the face. The face looks terrible. Yeah. Yeah, that's too bad. But a lot of people are having fun on social media. I love a lot of the memes that people have made of it and things like that. But D-Wade, don't do D-Wade like that. We love D-Wade. So, great job with ARA tonight, Voldy, as always. And Shield shoutouts. We got some Shield shoutouts to get to. A lot of Halloween stuff happening, especially tomorrow. So, we got a lot of Shield shout-outs to get to, so I say we get it going with some Shield shout-outs.
Shield shout-outs.
All right, Shield, who you shouting out tonight?
Well, we would like to wish everybody a safe and happy and hopefully a very warm Halloween. And to be sure to double check your candy for the kids. Make sure there's no razor blades, pills, guns, drug paraphernalia of all sorts. We definitely don't need that. And hopefully everybody has a very happy, safe, and very fun Halloween. Hopefully everybody dresses warm because Lord knows it's going to be raining and snowing even after the last couple of weeks, which has been nice for fall, but hasn't been quite long enough in that area. But also want to make sure
I've been here the whole time.
To check out Smiles for Jake weekend with the Granite City Lumberjacks as they do play host to the Alexandria Blizzard and the Minnesota Wilderness Friday and Saturday in Sauk Rapids. Now, for those that are wondering, Smiles for Jake is a nonprofit suicide prevention and education program in honor of Jake Hapajoki, who did unfortunately lose his battle with mental health as a teenager. We certainly hope that it'll be a great turnout. The Lumberjacks will be wearing special jerseys that will be auctioned off after the weekend is done. There will also be raffle prizes, silent auction items from members of the Lumberjacks family and extended family, as well as from the likes of Smiles for Jake. You can obviously learn more by checking out the Granite City Lumberjacks on social media. Also go to smilesforjake.org to learn more about the organization itself. And sadly, we finished Shield shoutouts with sad news to report, as it was reported earlier today that the very last Blockbuster video, yes, Blockbuster still does exist. The very last one, which was located in Bend, Oregon, will be closing their doors tomorrow, October 31st, 2024. Blockbuster did fight the good fight. Even the last Blockbuster video in Oregon, there's been a couple documentaries out there talking about it. I believe there's even one on Netflix. I remember the good old days of Blockbuster, grabbing a couple movies for the weekend to watch, returning them after 2 days. I even still remember where the Blockbuster was located in Rochester, Minnesota. I go there every time I drive by it, and I say that's where Blockbuster was, and I think it's a CVS now or something like that. But that was a long, long time ago. So we thank you for your service, Blockbuster, and you will never be forgotten for at least us millennials and Gen Zers on top of it. Sadly, it will be all for a waste. So that is going to do it for Shield shoutouts here this week.
That is so depressing. I'm so depressed on that. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned, you know exactly where yours. I knew exactly where mine was in the area. I believe right now I think it's a parking lot for apartments.
Yikes.
I'm going to miss, dude, it's just so, I miss it. I'm not going to lie.
We're old,
Those were
man.
the days.
We're old, Matt.
I know. We're old. We're old men. And with that being said, too, I mean, it's just that ruined my night. I'm just kidding. I'm joking. But for being there as long as it did, props out to them. So we salute you over in Bend, Oregon. So great job, Shield shoutouts as always, and happy Halloween to all the zoners out there as well. But you know what would make Halloween even greater, Voldy? It's getting those picks in. That's a fact. You could win a MinneZona tumbler, yes sirree. if you get those picks in, if you're the top person to get in points this week, you will win that bad boy, and we will get that out to you and whatnot. But, yes, the box is included, so just throwing that out there. But make sure you get those in. And if you're like, screw it, it's getting cold out. I need, like, some MinneZona merch. Well, we've got it for you. Winter caps available. If you need that, since winter is coming. And then the sweatpants, we got the sweatpants for you. We got the quarter zips, and Kerf Doctor was wearing his quarter zip on the way up to the Granite City Lumberjacks Special, our second annual. And we got stickers. We've got the short sleeve shirts for you, and the hats. You know the whole deal. Voldy's got the camo hat on tonight. The American flag hat Jason got, which looks awesome on every zoner. So make sure if you get one of our merch, take a photo with it. We'll feature it on our socials medias. So make sure you do that. And remember to check out W2 Performance, our guy, Will Rattel at www.w2performance.com. Make sure you check out all his cool stuff that he's got going on. Will Rattel, we are trying very hard to get him back here on the show. We'll keep working on it. Thank you to National Fleet Graphic, Crown Rental, Tyler Knutson for the stickers that they've made and we still have available. Make sure you check out the Brotherly Ballers podcast. Tyler Hermann, Jack Vickers, all your fantasy football needs. It's a great show. They give you a lot of great advice, especially who to start, who not to start. So make sure you check them out. And then check out TLS Performance, Troy Stoudemire Jr., our guy, doing awesome things as well, cheering on the Gophers. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he's tuning in on Saturday for the big game against Illinois. And make sure you check out the Popcorn Bucket List with Nick Dahlhoff and the Ryne Myhrberg. You know the deal with those guys, Omni Entertainment. They've got new stuff out, new movies coming out, things like that. They talk about it. They got you covered. So make sure you check out those guys on YouTube. All right, that'll do it for episode 213. Voldy, Tate, Skol Vikes, go Wolves, go Wild, go Gophers, the whole deal. We will keep you up to date on our socials medias. And before we even go off tonight, you know that Ricky Rubio guy, Cole Munson, he's getting married on Saturday.
Yeah, he is.
I will be seeing him firsthand, and we will be having discussions. I said, okay, while you're on your honeymoon, you got to tune in, and you have to hop on. And, I mean, that's just, it's required. The Wolves are starting up. I don't care. You can take 20 minutes out of your day. It's fine.
Let's hope.
Let's hope. Fingers crossed. But, yeah, we'll keep an eye on those Wolves, and we'll get Cole on here soon as well. Zappa as well we've been working on, so. We got a lot coming down the pipe. So with that being said, that's going to do it. And, folks, remember, as always, give me the zone.
Holla.
Thank you for watching MinneZona Sports Live. Join us Wednesdays at 7 p.m. for live show broadcast. And as Voldy likes to say, follow us on all the socials medias.